Potter County. Had my dad as an ag teacher for 43 years. My dad taught ag at Coudersport High School, Potter County. My grandfather was a third generation dairy farmer in McKean County, 672 acres. 220 of it was open ground. The remaining portion is all forested area. So that kind of where the forestry part comes into play a little bit. My grandfather passed away. My dad owns that property now in McKean County. It's the third largest farm in McKean County. My back history is a little bit of that. I also was in a turf and landscape maintenance business. So I have the kind of a little bit of the urban forestry aspect as well, along with the landscape aspect. And graduated Penn State in 1991, BS in Ag Ed, and graduated in 1999 with an MED in Ag Ed from Penn State University. Student taught at Clearfield High School with Bill Macrath, just down the road from New England State College. And great experience, great 12 weeks. So hope you guys, yours was a little different student teaching experience, that's for sure. But hopefully you enjoyed what you could of it. And then took a job, took a teaching position here at Central Columbia 29 years ago and never changed. So here we are. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And if you heard us talking earlier, we are looking for a position. We're going to be interviewing here in May for a position for a gentleman who I had as a student, took a cooperative ed director position, Kurt Turner. Kurt's going to stay with us, obviously, in the high school, but we're looking to fill that position here in this month. So go from there. So kind of a little bit of back history and where we are with Central Columbia. So a couple things here. First of all, you guys are just getting started. So Jessica and Caitlin, if you want to tell me a little bit about where your student taught and where your hometown is. I already know Brandon's history, so that's why I'm not asking him.
Do you want
Go
to
ahead, Caitlin.
Okay. So I'm from the Mercer County, Crawford County, Ohio line.
Okay.
And so I didn't have an ag program, but I grew up on a small hobby beef hog farm, and I did 4-H. I actually went to Ohio State and got my associates there in animal science in 2016. And then I'm in the National Guard, and I'm actually stationed in Clearfield, and I'm still doing that. And then I student taught at Bermudian Springs with Diana.
Okay, yeah. Diana and I graduated together from Penn State. She's an Albion kid up there in Erie. I met her way back 30 plus years ago. So yeah, know her very, very well. Good friend of mine. So, Jess?
Hi, I'm Jess. I live in Derry, so in Westmoreland County,
Yep.
and I was in the FFA in high school underneath Mr. Campbell. So that was fun. That was a good experience. Loved that, and that's why I kind of came to Penn State. I also live on a small hobby farm, and I student taught at Brockway with Kyle Norman. So it was super fun. Loved every minute of it.
Good. Yep. Yeah, that's good. So you guys got some good experiences and you kind of know where you're coming from and kind of know where I'm coming from. So I'm going to give you some ideas here today that you could either use remotely in the situation that we're currently in. You guys are kind of done student teaching now, so you're really not in that mode. But it could be something, if we start the school year remotely and you have a position, it's something to think about. This particular, we don't know that. I know Penn State University is going to be the lead dog in the state of Pennsylvania on this. June 15th is when Penn State will come out and tell their students and their faculty and staff how they're going to start the school year. That's the date right now, is what they're targeted. Are we going to start remotely or how we're going to do it? So I'm going to give you some ideas today of things that we've done at Central Columbia that have worked really, really well in all different phases. So first of all, let's talk about our curriculum. We have a course called Forestry and Wildlife Science, which is a science credit at Central Columbia. The forest part is 9 weeks, and the wildlife part is the second 9 weeks, making up the first semester. So that kind of gives you that idea. It is a science credit, even though it's offered through the Ag Science program. My certifications are Ag and Extension Ed, K-12, environmental science, K to 12, and general science, 7 to 12. So kind of gives you that background of how can I involve all that into our program and relate to science credit. The next one we also target is environmental science, which that whole curriculum is based off the Envirothon. And the Envirothon is that competitive event. Maybe some of you guys competed in the Envirothon as a high school student. I didn't have that opportunity. Envirothon wasn't around then. Graduating in 1987, it wasn't something that was being done at that time. So we involved this in our curriculum. So it's something that we started to do. The environmental science part of it, we spent about 36 to 40 days. When I go through this list of material, you're going to go, may you do all that in 40 days? We tried to. A normal 9 weeks is 45 days. So they kind of go hand in hand. I always do forestry in the fall of the year. Numbers of reasons why. One, you still have leaves on the trees. Easy to get kids starting ID. Two, it's usually good weather, right? Through at least up to November. You're pretty good weather-wise. Usually have that class in the afternoon. Grass is dry, things are dried out. Usually pretty decent that way. And then lastly, it gets them prepared early in the year for the Envirothon and for our forestry wildlife event that we have at Benton in March. So it starts to get them rolling. Forestry is something that we here in Columbia County are not particularly noted for. We have a lot of pasture ground, a lot of open ground. We have some forested area. So when I came here, I'm like, okay, it's got some trees to it, but it's not northern hardwoods, right? But there's ways to manage through that and to learn what niche do you have in the market in the ideas of hardwood lumber production. Pennsylvania is the hardwood breadbasket of the world. Over 250 different species of trees in Pennsylvania. Most of those commercial species are about between about 101 to 116 of them have pretty high commercial value. Obviously, the highest being the black cherry, which is the highest valued tree in the state of Pennsylvania, only because it's only grown here in northern Russia. So the demand is high and the supply is low. So that's why we have that factor. Of course, our state tree is the eastern hemlock. And within this forested curriculum, we talk about invasives. I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit. So invasives play a big role. So again, they're very active in the fall of the year. That's an issue. So we'll kind of go from there. So let me work down through the list. At any point you guys got a question, just throw it out there. We're all friends here. So if you guys got something, just interrupt me and we'll kind of go through it. But FFA wise, we're looking at the ideas of the forestry CDE that Jesse Brandt and Dave Seinfeld run here at the state level. They do a good job with that aspect of it for sure. Also, you can involve the environmental resources CDE, which has some forestry part into it. So that's kind of the FFA side of where we go with those management practices. And if you go with wildlife CDE, there's some wildlife management that goes along with forest management. Obviously, if you have a forest, what are you managing for? Are you a Jim Finley with Forestry 209, right, Brandon? That you're going to manage that small woodlot for 26 acres to like what John said, Van Wagner, who teaches bio over here at Lewisburg, has done with his property? Or are you a large producer of 400 some acres and producing high quality lumber? Or are you just the average Pennsylvanian who owns 26 acres and just doesn't want to pay taxes on it? You want to get some income from it. This is kind of what we bank it off of. So the FFA side, it's that forestry part. And are we going to produce trees? Are we going to produce wildlife habitat? Are we going to do both? Are we going to multitask? And in Pennsylvania, most of us multitask. So we're growing trees, just like we would grow a corn crop, and we're going to grow wildlife. That's what we do in Pennsylvania. So kind of give you that aspect of it. SAE projects, many things out there. From you could run a little sawmill, a student could run a little sawmill. I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute, to selling firewood, right? We have to watch for the consumption of firewood making sure it's local because of the emerald ash borer and other invasives that can get connected. So you don't ever want to move firewood, but it's a great way. We've had numerous students actually cut firewood off their property, sell it roadside by the cord, because in the state of Pennsylvania, it's illegal. Nobody really particularly pays attention to this, but in Pennsylvania, it's only legal to sell firewood by the cord or the fraction of a cord. So half cord, phase cord, something you can measure, right? Cord being 4 by 4 by 8, that dimensions. There's a lot of easy force math that you could have students do to figure those type of things out. Versus, is it legal to sell a bundle of firewood or a bushel basket or a pickup truck load? And honestly, it's not. It's illegal. It's illegal to buy it that way, and it's illegal to sell it. However, the state police have a lot of other things to do. They're not worried about that, right? But it's out there. It's a law. And we talk about that aspect of it as you sell firewood. So our kids, when they sell their firewood as an SAE project, they have to make sure they're selling by the cord or fraction of it. So that's, and this overall land management could be an SAE project, entrepreneurship, foundational SAE project, could be an agribusiness. Who knows if they're going to sell lumber from it. So lots of ways to go talk about the aspects of an SAE project when it comes to forestry and proficiency areas as relates to FFA. And of course, then the Envirothon, obviously that's one of the stations at the Envirothon. At the Envirothon, it's usually identify some invasives, identify this type of tree, the number of logs in a tree using a Biltmore cruising stick, and then the DBH of that tree, and then the board foot volume. Of course, the Biltmore cruiser stick has all that on it. It has the measurements of the DBH. It has the number of logs using the Merit hypsometer. And then it also has the number of board feet. Of course, a board feet is 12 by 12 by 1 inch thick, 144 cubic inches. So again, I'm not a math guy. My wife is. I'm not. Worst subject I had, high school and college. So I'm not a math guy. And I tell the kids that up front. I'm going to make it simple for you because I need it to be simple for me. And I'm not embarrassed by that. I just tell them that. Okay. You got to know your weaknesses. You just got to know what your niche is. So that's my weakness. So, and I don't have an interest in math. So that's kind of also another driving point. But the Envirothon does that point of it. And then they have just common general knowledge questions about land management, timber stand improvement, TSIs, clear cuts, high grading, diameter limit cutting, wildlife selection cuts, WSIs, those types of things. So these are all types of aspects. And John and Beth have all that in a repository that I've sent all this material to them, and they'll push that stuff back out. That's open to you guys at any point in time. You can go down and grab it. That's in there. And then we talk about some community groups. Pennsylvania Woodmobile, good friend of mine, John Geyer, works for the Pennsylvania Department of Ag, runs the director. Him and Wayne Bender are the directors of the Pennsylvania Woodmobile. John's kind of taken over. John is a great guy, has a bio experience background, but the Woodmobile, if you can ever get it to your school, do it. We try to do it every other year. So I don't think it's something you want to bring every year to the school. It's free of charge. We've all paid for it. It's called taxpayer dollars. So the Woodmobile is something you want to get to your facility. Talks about the hardwood industry. John does a great job, or whoever's presenting that day does a great job of identifying the aspects of what the Woodmobile has to play. Woodmobile is usually at most fairs, and it's at the farm show. So they had a really great display, and I commented, John, on this, talking about the CO2 release of gathering of carbon dioxide and the release of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, and how trees help balance that. Their display at the farm show I thought was phenomenal. And John, that's one thing I didn't send to you. I forgot about that. Just reminded myself. I'll send that to you so we can send that to the repository. John Geyer sent me all those PowerPoints. So we'll put those in there too. So that'll be great. I forgot about that. Pennsylvania Tree Farms. Pennsylvania Tree Farm run through the Bureau of Forestry. something that the kids could do research on, something that they could maybe, if they have land, they could move forward towards management to become a Pennsylvania tree farm certified. A lot of nurseries like that we have privately are Pennsylvania tree farm certified. So that's something that kids could do research on remotely, or something you could do in class with them. Pennsylvania Hardwoods Association is something else that exists out there. A lot of resources. That some that I gave to John and Beth through the repository that talk about activities that you could do. And I'm going to talk about some of these activities that you could do with students, either remotely or live-wise. So the Pennsylvania Hardwoods Association, they're a sponsor of the Woodmobile as well. Okay. The Bureau of Forestry, obviously run by the Pennsylvania state government. They're part of DCNR, who runs all our state parks. They're all together. DCNR, Bureau of Forestry, DEP. Of course, DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, they're the enforcement agency. They're the ones that are going to slap the fines on folks that the conservation districts identify. You got an issue with erosion or whatever the case may be, misland use, and then DEP comes out and looks at it and goes, yep, that's a fine. So that's going to be the fining agency, what we call the enforcing agency to these aspects. Conservation districts aren't enforcing agencies. They're just regulatory agencies, where we're talking about they go out and generate knowledge about what rules or regs should be followed. Then we kind of go from there. Then the Seedlings for Schools program. I did send that to the repository for John and Beth. Seedlings for Schools, run by the Pennsylvania Game Commission. They want to put material out there free of charge through the Howard Nursery, which has been shut down because of COVID-19. But just know that there is an application that comes out end of January, beginning of February, for all ag teachers to match up with an elementary school teacher. Mine's pretty easy to do because my wife's a third grade teacher in our district. So I match up with the third graders to do an activity with them right around Earth Day, right around that April 22nd timeframe. We talk about trees, the importance of trees. Also kind of goes along, we enhance the idea of Arbor Day into that as well. So Seedlings for Schools program, run by the Game Commission, free of charge to you. You can get seedlings to donate to the kids that they could take home. There's also a nice pamphlet, and John and Beth have that I forwarded to them. Lots of activities talking about trees, and you could have your FFA members or ag students do a really nice presentation with the elementary age kids about trees and their importance of trees and what they do for us, from erosion control to producing clean air to all these factors that young kids don't understand, but you could put at a level that they could. So Seedlings for Schools program, great program, Game Commission. And then the last one I was going to talk about here real quickly, just in community groups. These are all community agencies or organizations that are out there, is that idea of all our private forest consultants that exist. Our library aide at Central Columbian High School, her husband is a private forest consultant. So what he does, he goes out and you hire him to manage your property privately. He wouldn't manage state game lands. He wouldn't manage state forest lands. That's up to your district foresters to do, and those folks like that. But what he would do, he does, I should say, he goes out and say, I hire him to manage my 440 acres. He does that. But in the meantime, he purchased a Wood Miser portable sawmill, and he goes around and helps people in urban areas that have downed trees from thunderstorms, windstorms, tornadoes, those types of things. And then a lot of those people don't want the wood. So we hooked up with him this past year, and we did a great activity, and I highly suggest it. Mr. Horton owns the wood mill, the portable sawmill. We here at Central Columbia, between our ag side and our engineering side, always thought that we wanted to buy a portable sawmill. And we kind of think we still do. But there's a lot of money involved in that. Where are we going to store it? Insuring it, that type of thing. So we kind of went the different route, and we actually have him bring his portable sawmill in for a day. He does a presentation on it. He loves doing it. He gets the wood that people don't want. This past year, we used walnut. Walnut tree went down in a person's yard, pretty good size one. He gathered it up, put it on his trailer, brought it to school the night before, the day we were going to present, got his sawmill set up, showed each of the classes that we took out from our ag science courses, environmental science, engineering side, because we're talking materials. We actually had our accounting class come out and talk to him about accounting, because how do you keep track of wood? And it's, the accounting firms do this for big businesses. So we involved them as well into it. And then when he was done sawing this log up into usable lumber, we stored it. We naturally air dried it, and it's about $2,500 worth of material that he didn't know what to do with. The homeowner didn't want it, and now we have it to use. Wow, what a great idea. And it saved us a lot of money, and it got us into the hardwood business, but it showed the kids how to use the sawmill as well. And they got their hand to actually try using the sawmills, which was cool too. He allowed that to occur. So they got to operate the sawmill. So it was a really great experience. We're still not holding out that we don't buy one down the road here, maybe with a supplemental grant through PDE. We might think about doing it that way, or particularly not sure where we're going to go with the Pennsylvania Farm Bill and the Rural Youth Grant now with Pennsylvania and the state that we are economically. I'm not sure that those grants are going to be available next year again. Time will tell. But that would be a good purchase there as well to do through the rural youth grants. So if you're looking for grant material, that type of thing, that may be something that you might think of, wow, we could do it that way. So we kind of go from there. So any questions up to that point? We all good? I'm just going to give you some ideas. Okay, going to give you some ideas and we'll kind of move on. Turninggreen.org, turninggreen.org. I gave that to John and Beth. There is a lot of material on this website, and it's free. It's a free website to register. I didn't really know it. I'm not going to fool you. You guys are intelligent enough, probably more intelligent than I am. I didn't even know it was out there till about a week or so ago. I fumbled onto it. Wow, there's a lot of material here that is really good stuff for high school age kids. So turninggreen.org, and it's constantly updated. So I would highly suggest it. I'm 29 years into the business. I've lived forestry myself, and I'm going to be using this coming school year. So again, you can always change and adapt and add to what your platform is for sure. So there it is, turninggreen.org. Thank you, John, for bringing that up. AgEdNet.com obviously also is another aspect that we use through a lot of lessons. If John would go to the lessons tab there and scroll down to natural resource management. You have lesson library, sorry, John, lesson libraries, yep. And go to natural resources systems. There's tons of environmental aspects that you can use. PowerPoints are already done. Now, can you fix them? Can you alter them? No, but if you're looking to get something started and you don't know where to go, here's a great way to do that, with study guide sheets that the girls have put together out there in Nebraska, where AgEdNet.com is housed physically. They do a great job. They update these all the time. It's a $400 subscription. But again, if you have an FFA alumni society that's looking to help you as an ag teacher, and what can we do to help, and the school can't afford it, this is maybe something they could help you subscribe to. AgEdNet.com.
This was always my go-to for sub plans.
Exactly. Or we've used for remote learning as well. There's puzzles on there as bell ringers, as tickets out the door, those types of things that you guys are familiar with just overall good classroom management skills. And these are done by professors and people in the business and in curriculum development, not just somebody making up some, I'll say it this way, cockamamie lesson on forest tree regeneration. Right, great. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is something that's hardcore for high school kids to get the grasp of. And it's at their level. It's not at a PhD level, right? Simple things. And there's one for John, learning about venomous snakes after we get done here. Unit number 49. So anyways, so igetnet.com, great idea. So why do we start forestry and why do we do invasives? Well, invasives, obviously the hot commodity right now, spotted lanternfly. We in Columbia County, right before COVID-19, got quarantined for that as well. So we started it obviously in the Port of Philadelphia, came into Port of Philadelphia on ships, obviously from Asia. Unfortunately, that's where most of our invasives come from. Shame on China and those countries over there, but that's what we do. So we've gotten a little bit more hardcore on those factors, and we start really watching what we bring into this country. And spotted lanternfly was one of those. And one of the things we do with our environmental science class is we take them through PDA's spotted lanternfly learning permit certification. PDE did not, I just got noted on this. We try to get that as one of our certifications for our kids as a chapter 339 additional in certification. They didn't buy into it, but we're still going to do it. It's still something that kids can leave there with knowledge of the spotted lanternfly. They learn about it for a day or two in our invasives unit in forestry, and then they take the test. It's 20 questions, and they get certified. It's great. Because here in Columbia County, we are fairly close to that eastern sector that's totally quarantined, Berks, Bucks, Lehigh, Carbon, those counties. So that's kind of why I thought it was important to involve it. Of course, the gypsy moth, the emerald ash borer, hopefully not yet in Pennsylvania, the Asian longhorn beetle, the chestnut blight, the on and on and on it goes. All these affect hardwood trees in the state of Pennsylvania. Of course, the Woolly adelgid affecting our eastern hemlock, our state tree. So we talk about those aspects. Pennsylvania has a great history in the forest industry. Living and growing up in the northern tier, that's what we were banked off of. The Pennsylvania Lumber Museum, right on Route 6, is just between Coudersport and Gailton. Know it very well, been there numerous times, but it talks about the forest industry. One of the things you can do remotely or live is show kids forest history in Pennsylvania. It is a deep heritage, that is for sure. So that was one of the other sites we talked about is the Pennsylvania Heritage Association. Relates, I'm looking at my notes here. The Pennsylvania Heritage Association has a lot of material banked off of forestry as well. More of it recreation driven, but it still could be a great learning curve of why state forest started. Maurice Goddard, right? Joseph Rothrock, Gifford Pinchot, right? All these gentlemen were foresters that are native to Pennsylvania that start our state park system, our state forest system. Mount Alto, it's where people go to Penn State to start their forestry aspects. They're on the Maryland-Pennsylvania border at that campus, just south of Shippensburg, and then they advance to the University Park to get their forest products degrees or whatever it may be. Again, all this natural history that occurs here. Lots of videos on Pennsylvania forest history for sure, no question about it. So the invasive poster, what do we do with it? The students pick an invasive species in environmental science, and then what they do is they do and I gave John and Beth this for the repository, well, actually that assignment, it's in there. And then they do a research topic on it. They get about 3 to 4 weeks to do it, about a month. And then at the end of the unit, before our unit exam, they do a presentation on their invasive. And we make sure that there's no duplicated invasives. So, Johnny does gypsy moth and Jill does spotted lanternfly. And then we all learn about it, but they get to present to their peers. So it gives them a public speaking ability as well. Could they do that remotely? Absolutely. Our environmental science class is doing that currently on their an environmentalist in the state of Pennsylvania. So currently they're choosing an environmentalist. They start just on Monday, and they're going to do a presentation to me either via YouTube, or they're going to do a voice thread, and they're going to present their poster to me, and I'm going to grade it that way. But all their peers can see it, so they can learn something from it. That's why we do the invasive poster. So it works really well in each of the sections. So that's why we do it. Any questions with that? All right, we'll move forward then. Let's go to the Envirothon website then, John. John's going to run our screen here for us here this morning real quick. We'll go to station training. You guys familiar with this website at all? Okay, sounds good. So we're going to go to Forestry. And of course, the learning objective is where all the state standards are, right? So we're not going to bore you today with that. The reference material is the next step. So we're going to have John go to the reference material list. And this gives you an idea of all the ideas that the Envirothon is going to touch on. So we bank our forestry section of environmental science kind of off this section. So first thing we do, we got to identify trees. How do I manage trees if I don't know what they are? I have no idea. Most high school kids, they know a maple and maybe an oak, and that's about as far as they go for the most part. They might know something about a Christmas tree variety, but they don't know what the tree is. Fraser fir, concolor fir, or Douglas fir, whatever it may be, right? So that common trees aspect goes with it. But so then we go to forest ecology. We talk a little bit about the ideas of forest management, and then we go down to management practices, and then we get to the invasives down there at the bottom. What are the invasive plants that affect tree growth? There they are. What's funny about the spotted lanternfly is their key host is an invasive species, tree of heaven, down there at the bottom. So now we have an invasive on an invasive. Wow. It's like the round goby after the zebra mussel in aquatics we talked about a week or so ago. So it's kind of weird that way. And then we talk about basal area and those types of things. You can always obviously get a district forester to do a Zoom meeting with your class, or you could get them to come in live. You could do that as well. And we do that. Our district forester comes in and does a presentation for us one day. So between all those community organizations, have your district forester come in as well, okay? And then we'll go down to learning enhancements. And this is kind of where the whole thing's at. You look at iTree, you guys are all about technology, and we all are now today with COVID-19. These are apps, the iTree app and the Leaf Snap. We use both of those. These are where kids could put this on their phone. They could take a picture of it, and with that app, they don't know what it is. Those apps will instantly identify that leaf for them through the photo. It's pretty cool. If you have iPads, we're a one-to-one school. So with the iPads, they could take a picture with their iPad, have it on the app, and those apps, if I'm not right there to help them break it down through a dichotomous key, because I just don't want to tell them the answer. I want them to try to figure it out, what that leaf is. That's the learning process. If I just keep telling you what it is, you'll eventually get it, but you don't learn how to get it to know that so you could teach somebody else how to do it. Dichotomous keys are the key there, right, to doing that. And I did send John and Beth dichotomous keys that you can use in forestry there as well. So we're good. We go back up, John, to the references. Can we go to Common Trees of PA? I think we can tag on that. Yep. Great booklet. It's in the repository. It's Common Trees of PA. It's a free brochure. They've made it like it's 82 pages. So lots of information. Talks a little bit about Penn's Woods. William Penn, Quaker, came here, identified Pennsylvania, and then we went from there, right? And then our state forest, 2.2 million acres of that in the state of Pennsylvania. And it kind of goes on and on and on. So, but it gives you idea as well. So you could talk about different aspects of different types of leaf shape, leaf margin, knowing that trees are opposite, alternate, or world with their leaf arrangements. Kids don't understand that at all. Knowing that there's only about 4 species in the state of Pennsylvania that are opposite, right? Maples, ash, dogwoods, and horse chestnuts. Everybody else is mainly alternate besides 3 world species, catalpa, magnolia. You know, those are 2 of those species. Everybody else is alternate based. So when you're identifying trees, when you talk about alternate leaf arrangement, here's a branch, here's a branch, or here's a branch, opposite, or world where they're all around one terminal branching. So lots of information with common trees of PA. What can you do off of this? Well, the Bloomsburg Fair, one of the things we do at the Bloomsburg Fair is that we have kids create wood samples and ID those wood samples, scientific name, common name. We have them do bark samples, right? If you're going to get a leaf, you might as well get a bark sample while you're there. You don't need a very big piece. You know, removing a 2 by 2 inch piece of bark off a tree is not going to kill it. Twig identification, leaf sample, leaf collections. We all did that in bio class, right? Probably somewhere down the road. And have them do mast samples or seed samples, all things that they could do easily as something. And we do this at the Bloomsburg Fair, and they get judged through the FFA section. The other one that John has pulled up right there, keep a journal, scrapbook, or a photo journal now. With remote learning, what better time with the leaves coming out, have them go out, download the app, then what we want them to do, identify it, and then create a journal and actually have a photo journal. And it's something they could add to their AET record book and SAE to do that. Wow, put it all together. What a great way to do that. Not just making a leaf collection. They're doing more than that. But a leaf collection is a solid way, but all these other ways are as well. So photo journals are a good thing as well as we look at those factors, right? So these are some of the activities that they could do remotely, or you could do in class with them. We always get them started in class, then have them finish it on their own time. We're big believers of that at Central Columbia. Get them started and then have them finish it at home and then bring it back in and tell us what they did. That's the whole learning process. I think that's true anywhere you're at, not just here, right? Any questions on any of those examples? Any of those things that they could do physically? All right. We'll go to the next thing then. Conducting tree measurement activities. This is, if we're doing remote learning, we're going to have to do this through video, or you create a video. That's aspect, right? So if you go in and identifying different trees and that type of thing, let's go down, John, to, you're going to scroll up a little bit. Let me see here real quick. Let's go to forest types of Pennsylvania. So one of the things we're going to identify is where are these different species located at. The Envirothon has used this map many, many times and breaking it down. We only have 5 major regions in the state of Pennsylvania, but they're kind of, all these trees are kind of commonly put together. So are you in the northern hardwoods, right? So if you look at State College there in the middle, John will put his cursor on that. You can see that they're in the Appalachian oak forest. Most of us, that's where we are. You know, you slide just a little bit to the right there, John will slide to Columbia County, you know, a little bit further there. Keep going there. Keep going there. We are, right? Keep going. Next one over there. We are Columbia County, right? Right. Yep. We're obviously in that section. We're in that Appalachian oak forest. But if you go to the northern tier, Potter County, you know, northern hardwoods, Allegheny National Forest. We only have one national forest in Pennsylvania. And, you know, lots of different diversity there. So then you go to the southwest sector, you have that mesophytic forest that's a little bit different. Or if you go over to, I believe it was Caitlin, I think, she was on that Ohio border, she has the beech maple forest, right? So it gives you those ideas, but we're predominantly an oak forest for sure. But have the students tree measure, either have them watch video to know how to use the Biltmore Cruiser stick remotely, or you put together a video, have somebody video you, or when we get to class, that's what we do. We actually take the kids outside. And again, how many classes get to go outside? That's a big key, right? Even though security is an issue. So we have to take walkie-talkies with us. We have to identify to our security officers on campus that we're going to be outside the building in case of an intruder. 20 years ago, we didn't worry about that. Today we do. So you have to be aware of that as you guys get started. What's the protocol for my school in security? So we carry walkie-talkies with us in case we do have some issue security-wise, or a kid just gets ill outside, one or the other. And then we talk about tree measurement. So DBH, Biltmore cruiser stick, logs, numbers of logs, board foot, those type of things, which leads into lumber grading. So then when Mr. Horton comes with the wood miser, he brings a couple different logs with him. These kids, we take them through lumber grading, but then I have them grade a log out before he cuts it. And then after he cuts that lumber, we have him actually a couple of days later, we grade that lumber before we put it into a kiln, before we air dry it. So it's that whole process. They learn from tree management when the tree's standing to when it gets cut to a log, to grade a log, to then once it gets cut into lumber and how to grade that lumber before it's used as a material for furniture production or whatever. The whole process. So that's, again, something that you guys could do as well. Lumber grading videos, put them together, use somebody else's, and then, or obviously do it live. So that's another aspect as we go, right? The wood evaluation, we have the kids do wood evaluation. What that is they take little samples, and then what they do is that they actually evaluate the wood themselves, right? So grain type, open grain, closed grain, does it have an odor? Is it a hardwood, softwood? And we talk about those factors that come into play there a little bit. So that's another issue that we do. And then obviously, our activity, and then we grade out syrup, maple syrup. We don't tap syrup here on campus, but we do sell it with a retailer in the northern tier that I deal with, Hamilton Maple Products in Potter County. And we actually grade syrup out, right? And those aspects to it. So we actually take the kids through the process of how is syrup made. It's a phenomenal byproduct of the hardwood industry. Vermont, Russia, and Pennsylvania, the only 3 places in the world you're going to get syrup. Small supply, high demand. So that's why you can sell syrup at $75 a gallon, because the supply is so low, and there's only a 2 to 3 week window you can produce syrup. So again, the kids learn that process. So it may not be selling lumber or identifying trees, but what trees are good for that? Red maple is your best one. Sugar maple, Norway maple, silver maples. Those are all trees you can tap for sap. And if you want to, boil it down. It just takes time. And our time frame in our classes at 46 minutes doesn't allow us to do that. So we don't have an evaporator, but I take them through the video. But we do have them grade maple syrup. And I gave that to John and Beth in the repository to know if you don't know how to grade syrup, there's a whole aspect of how to grade it out by the Pennsylvania Maple Syrup Producers Association. It's a great form. It's easy to use. Kids pick it up really quick. Then we, by the way, as a treat to the kids, it's usually a Friday we do it in the fall, usually a football Friday anyways. We usually have pancakes. So the class is in the morning, so we have syrup, we have pancakes, and it's kind of just a cool activity. They always look forward to it. Classes start to talk to other classes. Hey, wait till you get to the forestry section when you're eating syrup and that type of thing. So kind of cool, just kind of reward for the kids being good people, right? Because we kind of do that aspect as well. Lots of industrial type readings. Last week I said I'm not proud of this. Caitlin and Jess weren't on. John wasn't even out last week. But I'm not a reader for enjoyment. I don't like to read for that way. I'm an industrial reader. So I read for purpose. I read athletic things and I read ag things. I don't read novels and fiction and I don't do that for enjoyment. It makes me tired. So I don't read for enjoyment. So I read industrially. So I gave John and Beth a lot of industrial articles that you could use. And I also gave John and Beth LFS worksheets that go along with like descriptive organizers or organizers that are the kids can use to really break down their readings that they use for a writing. So it's something we can do there as well. And then I also gave John and Beth for the repository a constructed response that we use to enhance our Keystone writing abilities on our Keystone exams for to help the lit department out. So kids read an article about forestry, give me information about it. What was the article about? Summarize it for me, but put it in good paragraph sentence form, and then we grade it. We've seen our lit scores skyrocket at Central Columbia because we've done this over the last 7 years. So it's something that we all work towards across all curriculums, not just English and ag. We all do it together. So kids know that. At the end of every unit, there's a constructed response that comes with it, right? Just a small prompt that we do according to the unit that we're in. Every unit we do that with. And then you can create quizzes. I think it's important that, John, if we go back to the map, can we go back to the map, John, for Pennsylvania? I break the regions down by FFA regions. They don't know this, but I break the regions down, and I give the kids quizzes on the 4 regions in the state of Pennsylvania on the counties. So the northern region, south central region, eastern and western. I want them to know the names of the 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. I think it's important that they understand why different counties have different aspects, either economically or forestry wise, agriculturally. Why does Erie do what they do when Lancaster does what they do, right? I don't even know where Lancaster County is. Well, now you do, right? So that's one of the very beginning quizzes. It's simple. We review it 1 week. 7 days later, I give them a quiz, and we redo the next one the next week. We kind of go from there. So quizzes on the state of Pennsylvania just also kind of helps the history folks a little bit. If you have Pennsylvania history as one of your classes, it helps the history class also because now the kids understand where the counties are related to. So that's something else we do. And then lastly, is do a report on a chosen career, right? Choose a career in forestry, sawyer, skidder operator, a sawmill operator, owner, whatever, forest consultant, and have them do a poster on it. I've had the kids do electronic posters over the last 6 weeks on MIG welding. It's not forestry related, but I had my Ag 2 kids do it on the welding industry, and they do a 3-slide PowerPoint, and we go from there. So again, we could do that as well. And then lastly, chainsaw safety is a big deal as well. So, yep. So that kind of gives us that idea. We talk about chainsaws, how the chainsaws operate, parts of a chainsaw. We here at our place at Central Columbia don't have insurance for kids to operate a chainsaw. So we don't actually fire them up. I do, so they understand it. We're covered, but the kids not. So they understand the parts of a chainsaw, how a chainsaw operates. The most dangerous tool you're ever going to use in your life is a chainsaw. And most of them, if they live in a rural area or on a farm like you guys do, probably going to use one sometime. If it's gas powered or if it's electrically driven, they're going to use one sometime or be around it. I think they need to understand the importance of that. And there's some courses that they could take through chainsaw safety to get certified. So it gives you that idea as well. So, yeah. And then the FFA, Jesse Brandt on the FFA website has an ID, and I gave John this Penn State University through the School of Forest Resources did one as well. It's a 96-slide ID PowerPoint already done for you of tree ID. 96 trees identified for you, already done, scientific name, common name. Brandon's heard me say this a million times before. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? It's already been invented a long time ago. Borrow it from somebody else, use it for how you want to use it. Maybe how they used it isn't how you would use it. And that's what the repository is all about. I gave Beth and John stuff that you probably would maybe never use. But I was just trying to give you an idea of what we do, of years of experience that you could put into play early in your guys' teaching career. So just kind of some thoughts there. So, and then the kids take a quiz on the chainsaw parts, what they do. And then of course, when Mr. Horton's in with the wood miser, we use the chainsaw then and how it works. And we even take them, if I have enough time in the course, how to sharpen a chainsaw chain, why there are different chains available. Some are more aggressive than others, things of those sorts. So lots of material. You know, that's the hour, but I'm willing to field any questions that you guys have here for a little bit. We can kind of go from there. Anybody have anything? Brandon, I couldn't have been that good.
Well, it's another day where I got pages of notes here of all kinds of cool things.
Well, is there anything that we brought up that you need just more clarification on, or I'm not sure how you would do that, or anything from the three of you? I mean, I feel bad for other folks that don't get on, because Brandon says it to me every day, every week, that, you know, I've gotten a lot of stuff from this. It's just years of experience that we've done and found out things that work. And when I was 29 years ago, you know, I was looking for things that, you know, there wasn't a lot out there. People didn't do a lot of this stuff. And I said to my dad, I thanked my dad for all the help that he gave me years ago. And I said, when I got in this profession, that I wanted to help younger folks get rolling in their programs and and conduct their programs but the way they wanted to, but provide them material that I knew worked. So, Jess, Caitlin, anything that you may have questions about, or?
How did you pitch to your administration to convince them that it was okay to teach chainsaw safety?
That's a good question. I'll be honest with you, it's actually pretty easy to do because if you're in an ag mechanization, our two CIPs, I guess I didn't go over that first, but our two CIP codes with PDE are ag mechanization, which is only one of 15 schools in the state, and ag-related sciences. There's only 7 of us that are in those. So that forestry aspect crosses both of them, ag mechanization and related sciences. So knowing that ag mech is a high priority occupation where forestry is not, we sold it to them saying, listen, if a kid was going to go in forestry, he's got to know something about tool maintenance, mechanization of machinery, from log skidders to ATVs to simple tools like a peavey, right? That's the other thing I didn't talk about, is the idea of just hand tools that are used in the forest industry, from fire swatters to peaveys to log carriers to Biltmore cruiser sticks to prisms to loggers tapes, many things out there that are simple tools, no power to them. It's operated by these, right? So we talk about those aspects. The forest industry has advanced itself, but as advanced it is, it's still that crude is true. Because to be honest with you, you just don't walk in to a woodlot in Pennsylvania on 47% slope with a skidder and think you're going to be okay. You got to get that tree on the ground first. So you still got to manually do it. So Brandon, that's how we kind of sold it to them, because we had the ag mech CIP, high priority occupation, but those two are married to each other. That's how we sold it. Yep. And every kid living in rural Pennsylvania, you got to remember, 55% of our state lives in a rural setting. You take away Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, okay, maybe parts of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and maybe a little bit of Erie. Everybody else in the state lives in a rural setting. State College is rural. I don't care what they tell you. It's rural, right? Get outside Atherton, and it's like College Avenue. You know, Circleville's not that far from you. So Ag Progress Days isn't that far. So it's a rural setting. So, yep. So that's kind of how we sold it. Yep. Hopefully you guys can get the repository from Beth and John. I think Bethany sent that out last week. If you haven't, contact Bethany. She can get that to you. There's a lot of information on it. The week before, for Jess and Caitlin, we went over wildlife 2 weeks ago. We went over aquatics last week. Week one, we just kind of had an open forum about what is environmental ed, how do we do it, why is it important. A lot of kids in ag programs today. We are in an ag production area, not like Lancaster, but Columbia County does have a lot of production, beef, a lot of soybeans, a lot of your grain crops, agronomic crops, hay crops, a little bit of tree production, right? We have enough of it. A lot of livestock, not a lot of dairy anymore. So it kind of gives you that aspect of it. But the whole idea behind it is a lot of these kids have a real interest in environmental science, from the water side to the forestry side to soils to whatever it is. That's how we sold it to put that in the program. Been a great addition to our program for sure. Yep. There's a lot of careers available to them. That's why we involve that career choice project poster, electronic or hard copy poster they bring into class to present, because they need to do some research on these processes and careers that are out there. They're unaware of that. And most guidance counselors don't know that either. So don't rely on your guidance counselors to know those answers. You guys are the best resource for kids in our profession, in our chosen pathway, to educate them about what's out there, for sure. Anything else out there you guys have a question for? If not right now, yeah, go ahead.
I had a question about the booklets, like the Common Trees of Pennsylvania, how it was walking you down like what to collect from each kind of tree. Have you ever do you ever compile like the students the stuff that they've collected and like put them in their own individual things, so you have like a set of them? Like, is that something that you've ever tried to do?
I have never kept, because what happens is they get judged at the fair and then they take them home, they use them as a reference, that type of thing. I've had some students in the past though say, hey, I'm never going to need this. And I look at the quality of it and I'm like, okay, I'll take it if it's good. If it's not good and they still don't want to get rid of it, I use it for class just as a reference tool, just to have kids look at it. It may not be of great quality or what I was really looking for in creativity, that type of thing. I mean, I have zero creativity. I'm not an artist by any means. So I don't claim to be, and I do that in class too. I don't draw well. I'm a stick writer, figures, so that type of thing. So, and I'm not afraid to put that on a whiteboard either. But the whole idea of it is just as that I've never really taken kids' collections and put them into one big collection. But what I have done is I've collected ones that kids have left or kids didn't need. Here's the other thing. I had some kids attend Penn College over here in Williamsport, 50 minutes from us, and major in horticulture or forestry, and said, hey, you know what? I had to make 2 of these copies. Do you want one? Well, at that age level, they're a little bit more mature. They probably did a little bit better job. I have a couple of girls that did that for me, and I have their collections from college. So, and I have my own that I did with Forestry 209 as well. So I've collected that over the years. That was like 32 years ago though. So it's like, wow, getting ancient, but hey, tree species don't change a lot, so, yep. But no, I've never done that, but that's a great idea though. Yep. Or try maybe today to put together with our iPads, put together a photo journal of them. And then they're never going to go, by the wayside or fade or, just get where they just can't be used anymore. So that's a great idea. Yep. Anything else out there? No? Did we do okay for you? Couple ideas? Those samples of the wood and the bark and the leaf and the twig, that's a great project for the kids. They learn scientific naming. Why we go over that in class. Why does binomial nomenclature exist? Why did the boys like Carl Linnaeus even get this thing started? You know, that why did he even start doing this type of thing? And we find out that Quercus rubrum is a lot different than Acer rubrum, right? Red maple versus red oak. There's a big difference there. But the Envirothon, I said this last week, the Envirothon had a lot of scientific naming in it last year, especially in forestry at the state level. It killed us. We were good with common names, and we were pretty good, but we would have been in the top 10 if it wasn't for the forestry scientific name section. Besides that, we were pretty good. But kids came back and they were like, that got us. So, but there's only so much time in a day too. And you got to realize that. And some of this is going to be on the kid to kind of learn on their own too. You can identify those species, but if you did a species a day, if you guys did a species, that's 96 days. Well, if forestry class is all year, that's half your year right there. So you gotta work that out, and you guys are going to learn what's going to be best for you as you go through your teaching. What's best for your school setting? What's best for your time frame? Your student interest? Where do you want to go? We've been trying. Our administration has been trying to get me to go AP Environmental Science. We've kind of held off on that. I have the booklet. We refer to the booklet. Our kids, some of our kids, 2 of our kids last year, took the AP exam environmentally on their own, and they did great. So I know what we're doing is right. I just don't want to be locked into the AP sector. I just don't want to be locked into that. So I've kind of held that kind of stern, but I believe sometime down the road, we'll probably have to bite into that. So AP is great, but there's a lot of issues with AP. That advanced placement stuff. So is what it is.
I have a question for you since you brought that up. So going into after you finished at Penn State, what made you decide to get your environmental science cert? Did Central Columbia make you do that, or did you do that when you were still at Penn State?
I was there. Yeah, Brad, that's a good question. I already did all that when I was already there at Penn State. Those 3 certifications came with my ag ed degree. We were, I think, 91, I think, we were the first class that had the options in ag ed to be able to do that. We all were going to get general science just because of the curriculum that we were with. And I was half tempted just a few years ago to move to a general science middle school position that came open. But I didn't do it. Numbers of reasons why. I'm not sure I could take a middle school kid 8 hours a day, every day for a year, every year, after year, after year. I love the kids to death, but I'm not sure I want that age every year. The other reason that I did do it, because I knew at Central Columbia, because I had already done some pre-service work there, that I knew it was an environmental area, and I knew if I was going to land there or have the opportunity to land there, and I knew where I was student teaching definitely was. That's why I finished it off and got that environmental certification K-12. I do not regret doing that at all. Some people say that. I don't regret doing it at all. Very few of us did that. Myself, a gentleman by the name of Dan Vorsek did it as well. He now works in the state of New York in the environmental park system in New York State, actually in the Adirondacks. Once in a while, he stops by. I don't live too far from Interstate 80 here in Mifflinville in Columbia County, just before the Luzerne County line here. And he stops by once in a while, once every other year or so. But he and I stay in contact. But that's kind of why I went that route. And then obviously the general science thing just came about just because of the curriculum that we were in. So there's a lot of correlation there. But it definitely was something I'm glad I did, and I don't regret it a bit. So, yep. There's a lot of avenues. A lot of kids want to go in this profession, and there's a lot of careers there. A lot of great careers, long life sustaining careers. And I've had numbers of kids come out of our program, Cornell, wherever it may be, and they've been involved in the in the environmental science program, and we've hired a couple of them at our conservation district here in Columbia County. So it's weird, you know, well, weird, but not weird, but having a kid in class and then seeing him go to school, then hire him back, and then, you know, it's kind of a cool thing though. You'll experience that in time. So, yep. Anything else you guys want to discuss in general? Anything we went over today that we didn't cover? Anything else? Again, if you have any questions down the road, feel free to email me, dbrown@ccsd.cc, dbrown, BROWN, at C as in cat, C as in cat, S as in Sam, D as in dog, dot, C as in cat, C as in cat. So we'll try to respond to you pretty quickly. I think Brandon did that yesterday. I responded to him pretty quickly. Now, you just caught me at a good time. I was on a computer almost all day yesterday, trying to get these guys to remote learn. So that's what we were doing. So correct and test and that type of thing yesterday. So, but yeah, anything else? Check out that Van Wagner thing. He does a good job. He's a big folklore guy. Van is a Danville graduate. And then has a lot of experience with folklore, heritage type things, history of the coal industry, history of the iron furnaces. That's what he's into. He does a lot of songs. He's a big songwriter, singer. I'm not. I love music, but I don't do either of them. But he does a lot of that type of thing. I think he sings on this sustainable logging thing as well. So he's big into that. So check that YouTube video out that John posted. It's pretty cool. Yep. A lot of stuff out there. But Turning Green, that's a great website too. By the way, the other one I did say for you guys, Project Learning Tree. Project Learning Tree. Wow. What a lot of stuff from K to 12. Just a lot of material. It's a phenomenal site, and you can gather it. And again, it's free. So Project Learning Tree. Yep. All right. If that's it, okay, guys, glad to see you this week again. Next week, we're going to talk about soils a little bit. I have everything sent to John and Beth. We're good to go. I got all that prepped yesterday. So we're going to talk about soils. And this is the aspect that most kids in high school don't walk down the hallway talking about soils. They don't talk about that, right? But our chapter president, Cody Lehman, who's going to be running for a state FA office, it was accepted at Penn State in agroecology and is going to be a big science guy in soils, loves soils to death. Probably out of my 29 years, probably the kid has kind of bought into that system the most. He actually did a video for Geisinger on the systems of why soil health is important for human health. It was a 1.5-minute video that he did that went statewide, and our chapter president did that. So pretty cool. Putting kids out there, getting them to network with people, putting their faces out there. That's our job. That's our business. So, yep. All right. Anything else? We all good? All right. Well, have a good rest of the week, and have a good weekend, and maybe we'll see you next week. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate all these great resources.
No problem. No problem, Brandon. Glad to see you again. And yeah, you're going to submit your application here this week?
Yeah, it's in the mail. It's already should be getting there anytime.
Okay, we're going to do that via Zoom, just so you know that. I don't think the committee's put together totally just yet, but obviously I'll be on that. We kind of go from there. So go from there. Yep. You can check out our website, by the way, too, ccsd.cc. Just Google Central Columbia School District, and you can go from there too. So, yep.
Great.
All right.
Thank
Sounds good.
Much.
Jess, Caitlin, Brandon, see you guys later.
Thank you.
Pepper, no problem. Thank you.